I am a trained remote viewer, and as we're speaking, I'm trying to close down a lot of the windows that I have open to make sure that it's not my fault if we get cut off. I am not uh, running this chat from a jail. I just moved. I don't have my setup yet. So I put a little orchid to kind of give you a taste of what I would want for you to have. Do you know what orchids mean, by the way? Orchids have they're evangelists and they bring good news. And you know that 30 years ago, 20 years ago, if you had a party, uh, rarely would people show up with an orchid. Today, if you throw a party, even if it's Christmas, several people will show up with orchids as gifts. So there's a shift there. Spiritual good news. Okay, what is the title of today's chat? Even though we already know that I have a hard time staying on task, but the title is interesting. It's the Magic Trio. And we're talking about Trump, Elon Musk, and now RFK. For somebody like me, this is incredibly exciting news. And I'll tell you why. In terms of statistically, and also in terms of what it is that I see in my work, and I've worked with people that wash their clothes in rivers still in Latin America, and people that you could almost say they own countries. And I've worked with very high government officials. So I kind of have a wide range. I'm not going to say it's thousands of people, but the people that are the most intuitives are mothers and businessmen. Why? Mothers, they don't really care what authorities say, what the doctor says. They know something about their kid. They know there's something the matter with their kid. It doesn't matter what the doctor says and what all the friends say. They do not allow social issues and people's opinion to get in the way of them taking care of their children and protecting their children. Arelis Cantun, we don't take those kind of chat messages because they look too much like triggers for a mind control victim. I'm a mind control victim. So no more Arelis of that kind of a message. So those are the two groups, businessmen and moms. Trump is a businessman. Why is it that businessmen are so intuitive? It's not that they're so intuitive. The ones that make it to the top make it to the top because they are intuitive. And in whatever field you're in, if you have that extra information, you will also find it easier to get to the top. So we got running for president, a business person. And this is not about money. Okay? Not about money. This is about being able to navigate a new world, which everybody has talked about. And even in terms of people that are not into spirituality, they call it the Great Reset. And it's in the Bible. The Dolphins talked about it, the Hopi Indians, everybody. We really want somebody really intuitive because the old rules and regulations are not going to help us. And one of the things that I tell the people that follow me is you need to develop your intuition. Your third eye needs to be operational, and your instinctive knowing needs to be honed. I'll explain to you in a few minutes why I have no fingernail polish on, and it has nothing to do with the move. It has to do with health. So that brings us to RFK. I didn't listen to his speech, but I understand a lot of people cried with his speech. He's going to focus on health. He's going to focus on children and their health. And you all know that I started my public life with my skills in the 90s, working with autistic children, children with Down syndrome, and children with cerebral palsy. And I found things that the medical profession doesn't know because it's other dimensional, and the medical profession can't help with because they need this information in order to be able to help the kids. So for him to say he's going to go resolve the health issue, for him to be into health foods and no additives, and the whole thing with the cancer that so many people say that there are cures for cancer, but it's not allowed. This is like music to my ears. So we got the second person in that team who's what he's going to be doing is based on reality, based on what is really good for us as a society and as families, the community, not just to set up a group of business people that want to make money off of the rest of us. That's not the new paradigm. So you've got Trump that's incredibly intuitive and really wants life to be better for everyone, including the common folk, but also for the business people. Nothing the matter about that. Nothing the matter with that. And then we come to Elon Musk, who is certainly the poster boy for the age of Aquarius, new age, what things are supposed to be like, having to do with business. But it's not just business, it's mission, because his mission, he translated into mission and big dollars. Our mantra, in terms of the Mantrista movement, which you can make your mantra true right now, is please God, help me with my intention to align with my miraculously prosperous mission. Who do we know that has done that without knowing our mantra? Elon Musk. So I suggest you start doing that mantra today, because unless it is your mission, you're not going to make a ton of money from here forward. And that mission has to be aligned with Age of Aquarius qualities that are supported now that we've entered, not fully, but we've entered the Age of Aquarius. It has to be community. It has to be for the good of all, not just for your bank account, which is why a lot of companies are going to collapse. We're also into revelations. So everything that people have done in the past to make more money and leave the consumer not having that critical piece of information that could have made a difference because it would make a difference in the bank account of the company, all that is not going to work from here forward. It's not working today. That's why everything is so weak. So we have a magic trio working together. I wanted to talk a minute about a superpower that Elon has that I think is incredible. Everybody feels heard by Elon Musk. He has, I don't know how many millions of followers. And yet, when we talk about him, we feel like he's our guy. We feel heard. How's that possible? There's millions of us with different angles in our opinion, but we feel heard. That's a superpower. So one of the magic trio has that superpower. And another I don't know this is a superpower, but I run a business, very tiny. But I ran another business where I had 30 some employees. Like I would say 30 some menstrual cycles because they were all female. It's a superpower to run that. But how does he do this? All these spaces that he covers. That has to be a superpower, but it's got to be like a new superpower having to do with the new era that we're in. But whatever it is, he's got it. But the superpower I know he has is the ability to want to convey a message, to want to convey a feeling, to whatever, and to have us all feel like we are heard, to have us all feel like we're important to him. We've never had that before. It's like we have a friend. Not like the Pope that's supposed to take care of all of us. Quit with all the complaining. We're not going to get into that. And not like the president of the country, he's there for all of us. But we know he's not hearing us. He's hearing certain things. We feel he hears us. That's a superpower. We got to put a name on it. Okay, so this is all the interesting and the good news. So here's what this trio needs to know now, today. We have spirits that haunt us. We have haunted homes. We have haunted objects. You know, my statue that the Museum of Science in Miami said that it was from a burial 2,000 years ago in Peru, and it was buried with a wealthy person. Well, what that scientist didn't know was that a soldier, a warrior, was killed and his spirit was attached to the statue that was put in the grave with that wealthy person. We don't know how many statues there were, but there would have been that number of soldiers that would have been killed. They needed those spirits. And then one day we'll talk about that astrological, archaeological discovery of those clay warriors where there's thousands of them. But I checked, and there's a spirit attached to each one of them. They killed thousands of men and attached a spirit to those clay statues. Okay, back to the magic trio. Trump, Elon, JFK, RFK. So we have a haunted statue. We have haunted homes. Nobody questions that, I don't think, anymore. And if they do, oh my God, I'm sure you're not following me, and I'm sure it doesn't work. What most people don't know is we also have haunted groups are haunted. Couples are haunted. Families are haunted. You know, when family is cursed, they're haunted. When you get even just Trump and Elon, now let's add RFK, there are going to be really heavy duty spirits because you get the spirit guides and the spirit hauntings at the level of your importance, of what it is that you could bring to the table that would make life more difficult for evil spirits, for negative spirits. That means that this trio is going to have hauntings at the level of their power. All three of them are powerful today. Together, the triumvirate, is that the way you pronounce it? They're going to get that level of spirit haunting. What do those spirits do? They talk in your head and you think it's your thought and your voice. So I can hear it now. One of them saying, he's trying to get ahead of me in the line. He's trying to take over my concepts and sell them as if they were his own so that when they work, he gets the credit and I don't. I'm not getting compensated properly. They're planning on kicking me off this bus. I don't even know what those spirits will come up with, but I can tell you that there is a process. And that process, which is like this in the other dimensions, because everything is like this in the other dimensions, quick, quick, quick. They go and they look for the weaknesses in the people and the weaknesses in the relating. And that is the portal that they enter, and it is that they start to hammer on. I'm not going to sit here and tell you the weaknesses of the three men. I'm not going to analyze that, but they need to figure out what their weaknesses are when they deal with other people in a group. I'm not sure. Trump has had to deal with a ton of people, but he's been up here. If he gets elected, he'll be up there again. He's already up there. I don't know what Elon's habits are or what weakness he could have, but I could suggest to him that he go back to when he's worked in groups, like when he was at PayPal. What were the issues that came up then? And deprogram them. Mantras are the easiest way. Deprogram them. Because those will be used, those issues, which were not purified, perhaps, the spirits will use to take down the group. Our magic trio. We don't want that. RFK, I don't know what his weaknesses are, but certainly one of them has to be he's got to deprogram the pattern of the people in his family that become very powerful at the level that he would be if Trump is elected, of them being assassinated. He's got to deprogram that because that has an influence on his relating. And Trump is not, in my opinion, the face of the new era that we're going into that is contrary to what is collapsing today. So he needs to see how fast he can make these adjustments to a new era with things that he wouldn't necessarily promote if it was just him making decisions for himself. I'm just coming up with this stuff off the top of my head. They're the ones that need to get this figure out, and then they need to deprogram it. And then systematically, there needs to be a purification of the spirits and of the injuries that are created, such as some newspaper article coming out and saying so and so said such and such about somebody from the Magic Trio. Well, it turned out that they did a cut and paste of the statement, and the cut and paste made the statement say absolutely the opposite of what they actually said. But for that space of time until that's established, you have the other people in the trio going, well, and then it gets corrected, and then it's like, oh, okay. But that, well, is like an injury on the mind. So there needs to be, obviously, constant communication, but there needs to be constant purifications. I have to tell you that any business that is really large, I'm not talking this country because if you don't even believe in spirits, why on earth would you pay somebody to clear them? You don't even believe in them. You can say to people, like you say to your kid, there's nothing in there. You just don't want to go to sleep. You just want somebody to blame. Let's talk about natural resources. The companies that work in natural resources at a national and international level, they all have to deal with the issues of spirits. They would go down in 2 seconds flat. Do you ever hear about that? No. Nobody talks about that except me. You know, many years ago, I said, the day that I die, I'm going to have a book ready to be published about the spirit world and the spirit mafia. And why can't I publish it before? Because I'll get taken down. Not just by the spirits, but by the people that use those spirits, like in Santeria. They do black magic and they attach a spirit to it. That's why it's called Santeria, Santo. Well, anyway, I'm not going to get into the explanation of the word. But all the rituals are done by calling in spirits and attaching them. And the spirit is what makes sure that that black magic hooks and stays operational for decades, sometimes centuries. I don't think I think I've told the story before, but I have a friend who had a girlfriend from Europe, and her family owned a castle. And I met her. And the castle was haunted. I think that she asked me to see about the haunting. Was it true? Yeah, it was. And then when I checked, that spirit had been there for 800 years. Well, that's not possible. Yes, it is, because there's no time in the other dimensions, okay? That's hard to wrap your head around, but that's the way it is. So 800 years is not anything for a spirit, nor is 2 seconds. So the whole issue of protection, including what the Catholic Church does. So protection, they're not protecting you against the person that's sitting next to you in church. And they're not protecting you with their rituals, the person that lives across the street. And all that incense, they're not doing aromatherapy on you. They're clearing the area, the church, the space, to be able to give you some spiritual teachings. But first, they use a type of aromatherapy, incense, whatever, and that incense has to do with spirits. So there should probably be some kind of a protocol having to do with the environment where the meetings are held, which a lot of times is going to be over a cell phone, etc. I mean, I'm not up to the latest in terms of that kind of technology. But there has to be attention paid to those enemies, because even though perhaps the Democrats wouldn't want for them to be in power, the Democrats don't have even remotely as much power and ability to take down the trio than the spirit world does. Oh, and I don't know their mates, but their mates, physical, can be whispering in their ear what a spirit is whispering in the mate's ear. Don't trust that person. Da, da, da. So the whole thing, and this is throughout history, men of power have used astrologers. I'm not supposed to use the phrase, but if you're not using astrology, you have a very narrow lens. And I have 1,000 stories having to do with my own personal business, having to do with astrology, my radio show that everybody, including the other radio stations, said should be syndicated, and we didn't make it. And it had nothing to do with money. Astrologically, we had zero support. But I didn't know enough to check that when I started because I was too enthusiastic. Oh my God, look at this opportunity. And then it turned out to be gold. But that didn't last because and you know how I found out? I invited an astrologer as a guest on my show. And when it finished, she said, your show is really good. Everybody's listening to it. You should get syndicated. I said, yeah, I know everybody's saying that. She said, not going to make it. And what do you mean I'm not going to make it? She said, astrologically, you're not going to make it. And I did not get upset at her. I was quiet. I was like, okay. And she was right. It didn't help that the man that ran the keyboard it was a radio show, and he ran the keyboard. He sat right with the router right there on the table next to him. And there was a portal. The router opened a portal. All of these things are very important, and they're even more important because the veils between dimensions have lifted. So the energies of those other dimensions can affect us even more. The spirits are even more powerful, and the really bad ones have entered planet Earth in mass. So let's see how quickly we can get everybody up to speed, having to do with the influences on them in the other dimensions, and apply it to the people that we are choosing to be our leaders. And I just want to make a small comment here, but it's really more a thought than giving you any information. I see an awful lot of people or powerful people signing up for Catholicism. But Catholicism is based on hierarchy, and the leader of Catholicism, which would be Jesus Christ, he was the marketing tool for the Catholic Church. And yes, he was a marketing tool. He ended up crucified on a cross. That is not what is going to happen in the age of Aquarius. The age of Aquarius does not promote you sacrificing yourself for your beliefs at all. You're not going to be crucified for religious or spiritual reasons. You could be crucified because you stepped on too many powerful people's toes. But I find it worrisome that some powerful people are taking to Catholicism. As I find it fascinating that they can be as judgmental as they are, and yet all of their masses include cannibalism, the drinking of the blood of Christ, and the eating of the flesh of Christ. And I find it even more fascinating when you say this and they go, oh no, but third eye, instinctive knowing, willingness to see something that you really don't want to see, real important in this new era. Why are you saying it's not cannibalism? Why? You could get away with that before. You can't get away with that today. People are too savvy and the young people are too awake. They may be not great workers, but they're real observant. So that is what I have to say about the Magic Trio. Let's get them primed for this incredible mission that they have. And let's consider ourselves very fortunate that our issues of business can be turned into something that we can continue to enjoy and earning a lot of money, continue to enjoy, even if it's the age of Aquarius, because how we earn a living is our mission, and our mission, bottom line, is to help humanity with cars, with airplanes, with dresses, with whatever. So we are in exciting times. This is very different vibration. So let's go ahead and we have got to start working on what we did with Venezuela, which we did mantras to support a fair and miraculously fair and graceful. Why don't I remember the second word? Elections. So we're going to do that now because the elections are messy and can get messy, and with too many people, there's just too many people that are going to do really poorly. Not just because Trump, it appears, is going to win, but because of the collapse of a paradigm. If they did really well in the other paradigm that's collapsing, they're not going to be happy campers, and they're going to want to blame it on the other people. Hey, the qualities that you are supporting and your behavior is no longer supported in the other dimensions. Bullying is not supported in the other dimensions. Lying is not supported in the other dimensions. So there's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to blame the elections, blame Trump, blame RFK and Elon Musk for stuff that even if they didn't exist, they would be going through anyway. And it's such a shame that religions did not make people more aware of this, of this huge change, which is a fair and just. Okay, spiritually sophisticated mantrista, thank you, thank you, thank you for existing and for being here and for supporting basically everything I do. She gave me the words of the mantra. So we're going to start today to start to move the energies that the elections be fair and just. Justo y nope. There's got to be another. Fair and just is kind of the same thing. Somebody look it up. The mantra for the Venezuela elections. So we're going to use. We haven't made a music up for the United States. Mateo Cuaron has been super busy with our stuff, but still super busy. So we're going to go with what we can remember. So it's I think the other word was that it would be miraculous. The other word had to do with it being so clear that whoever won. And that did happen in Venezuela. Miraculously fair and obvious. I'm going to put the word obvious, but I think I probably had it. Miraculously fair and obvious that the results, the elections, be miraculously fair and the results. Going to make it really long. Really long. But it. Okay. Okay. Very long. Please, God, help us with our intentions that the elections be miraculously fair and that the results be miraculously obvious. And I put the word obvious twice. I'm sorry. This whole having to do two things at one time is whatever. So that's the mantra. I'm going to choose the music. We're going to do 10 minutes. Let me give you the gold dress. The gold dress has deteriorated for all of us starting about a month and a half ago. Okay? There it is. It got pink on the left hip. This is good. I see it very gold and very white, but a little bit muted. But you need to see how it looks to you now. And then when we finish, we can do it again. And you can see whether you see it more shiny, more bright, more gold, more white. Some people see it blue and bronze. That means your vibration is low. Okay? And now go ahead and assess yourself from 1 to 10. How do you feel? 1, you want to slit your wrist, and 10, you feel great. And then when we finish, you look at the gold dress and you figure out where you're at in that rating scale, and you'll see how powerful the mantras are. So let's go ahead and do 10 minutes of this mantra. And I'm going to go with this because we have too many subconscious things coming up. Repeating the mantra for those who are listening in the podcast. Please, God, help us with our intention that the elections be miraculously fair and the results be miraculously obvious. Do you know that this mantra feels incredibly powerful? It's almost like that worry that I had about the elections got softened or erased. Just those words. And obviously the music with the particular frequencies that have to do with subconscious. I think it doesn't really matter what the numbers say or how obvious it appears that Trump's message is the preferred message by a vast majority of people. Subconsciously, we remember the last election and then the other election. And these words, the mantra with the music and the breathing, have really soothed me incredibly. I don't know how many of you felt that also. And to put in that the results be miraculously obvious addresses the issue of whatever fraud there could have been in the previous election. That it just be something that people go, we have to accept it. That's it. The mind creates reality. Mantras are devices that liberate the mind. What would be blocking that this be graceful would be mind streams, subconscious mind streams, caught up with the information from the previous elections. And mantras release those. You don't even need to know what it is that your mind streams are all wrapped around, tied up with, unable to create the reality that you think that you want and that you do want, but there's another part of you that's not quite so sure. So this was a very nice session for me. And the next time we're going to add the visualization, which I'll just say it now. Spiritually sophisticated mantrita reminded me. And yes, I need to use that phrase more. We need for our elected officials to be spiritually sophisticated because, after all, there is a battle between light and dark. And that's not playing out in the stock market, obviously. So, at some level, the people that represent us need to be aware of that without throwing us into a religion. The religions that we have, from what I can see, are based on the paradigm of the age of Pisces. Obey. We have, our mind creates, and then we're taught to obey, not to create, to obey. And our religions teach us to obey, and that's not the new paradigm. So this was not supposed to be an easy time, the transition. And yet I have this feeling that it's going to be a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. And I think it's going to be perhaps a lot easier than what a lot of people have felt. So where are you at from 1 to 10? And let's go ahead and put up the dress. And for those of you that are listening to podcasts, you got to get yourself a copy of that dress and have it on your refrigerator or in your car or your phone, and you can see it. Here's the dress. And where are you at in terms of, oh yeah, it's much shinier now. And there's more pink. Oh, now there's even more pink. It's traveling from the left hip across almost to the right hip. For me, this is me, the way I see it, because my frequency is a filter. that can make me see things better or worse. And in this case, the pink is augmenting by the minute. So we shall be here again. Meanwhile, get yourself a copy of the dress, put it on your refrigerator, and every time your kids come home or your mate comes home, say, what does that look like? The dress, what colors? And if they say brown and blue and then you go, you know what? No big decisions tonight. I'm choosing where we're going to go eat or what we're going to order in because your frequency is too low. You're not seeing the white and the gold. And with your kids also. One of the issues is that most kids that look at this dress do not see the white and gold. They see blue and black. But most kids today are massively depressed. And I hope that RFK is going to help to take care of that. Thank you for listening.